I got all I want, and I got all I need, and I got everything. I got you and me. All I want, I got all I need.
Marriage is the best. All right, today we're going to talk about the window. It's something I guess I'm just calling it the window. It's not a real window. It's not transparent, and you won't be looking through it. But it's simply my opinion on when marriage counseling actually works. Yeah. It's a perspective. An observational perspective on when people are inside the window where marriage counseling can be effective. Marriage counseling is actually kind of difficult. It might not be physically difficult, right? Like other extremely strenuous things. I have a brother-in-law who ran railroad track for a while and does HVAC stuff, and that's that's difficult. So marriage counseling is not difficult like that, but it is really a difficult undertaking. When you think about the difference between individual counseling versus couples work, in individual counseling, the focus is on a very specific system. It's just one individual and how they interact with different parts of their system, their interactions with their own mind, their interactions with their thoughts, their interactions with their feelings, their relationships, their finances, their stress levels. So the number of variables is lower, and it is simpler. Individual work is more simple than couples work. Increasing the number of people in the room does change the dynamic quite a bit. And so when you go from one system and how it interacts with all of the things around it to two systems, it's not really like a multiplication of connections, because this other person not only brings in their single connections to their spouse or partner, but they also bring in all of their thoughts, feelings, and connections to everything else, to different people, and to different stresses in their lives. And so all of a sudden, instead of a single system interacting with all of the systems around it, which, again, is fairly straightforward, you get this dynamic where you've got two systems, their interplay within one another, but also their interplay into all of the other systems that go on around them. Not only that, but these systems are very complex systems because they come from, very complex places, right? So you've got family of origin stuff that makes a big deal, or a big, it is a big deal. It makes a big difference. You've got birth order. You've got personality. You've got strengths and weaknesses. You've got kind of socioeconomic status. You've got race. You've got religion. You've got living situations. You've got children, and each person's interactions with all of those systems and what they bring into those kind of day-to-day moments, as well as the way that those things that they bring in day-to-day are impacting one another. Anyways, so the individual counseling and the couples counseling is different in that way, and it does create a level of difficulty because of its complexity. The actual client, when you're working with a couple, isn't either of the individuals. And when you're working with one individual, it's pretty easy to just kind of be on their team. That's a lot of what therapy can do for someone is I'm on your team. Like, I really want you to succeed. And when two people come into a room aimed at one of those people being seen and heard and understood and known, being encouraged and helped, and when those two people are honest and authentic about how things are going in that person's life, and they are able to kind of work through what would make things better and point themselves in that direction, and then the person, that this is on, the focus is on, goes out and does their work and continues to improve their system and grow as a person. It's a beautiful thing, and that person and their system is the client. It's just about them, and it's all about them. And some people will tell you that counseling is very. It's like it's easy. It's easy like a. No, it's easy. It's counseling is easy. It's very self. Is it aggrandizing? I don't even know if that's the right term. It's very weak in its perspective because it encourages people to stay and be where they are, or it makes room for people to stay stuck, and it encourages them to just stay stuck and to not learn and grow and change. Well, if you come to counseling care and you find yourself in my office, it is not a very comfortable place. If you could be a fly on the wall and watch people walk in that office and bare their souls, work through themselves and acknowledge themselves and what they're going through or what they've been through, the stress that they carry, and they lighten that load by, coming along, having someone come alongside them and bear that with them so that they can figure out how to bear it themselves moving forward. You would see an immense amount of work that people are doing to improve their lives and improve their systems and improve their relationships and improve themselves. And it's really hard work. And the people who come in and want to work, they very much benefit from the work, and their systems benefit from the work. And sometimes it makes things better and sometimes it makes things worse. Counseling's not a zero-sum game, but it is a powerful relational tool, and it's a really wonderful, wonderful thing. But when you're counseling an individual, your client is the individual. But when you're counseling the couple, neither individual gets your full attention, because the reason that they're there is to improve the stuff in between them. So the client is actually the stuff in between. So I'll even tell couples at times, I'm not here for you, looking to my left and pointing at whichever person sat to the left. And I'm not here for you exactly either. In fact, I am here for the stuff in between. I'm here for this relationship. I'm here for the things and the strategies and the hope that everything in between you can improve, and that it will grow to be such a beautiful, wonderful thing that you'll never want to come see me again. You'll never need to come see me again. And you'll have a sustained system that you can take into the future and that will bless you for forever. Now, that doesn't ever really happen in the sense that, they fix it, they move on, and they never need anything anymore. Because life changes and things change and people change and systems grow, and then new challenges come up. And so I have graduated plenty of couples, and actually just recently graduated a couple to kind of maintenance support, where they only come in when they need something, and basically they've got their system, and now they just need to keep executing and keep working at it. So the stuff in between, that's the client. In couples work, it's the stuff in between. And in that, me as the counselor, my primary goals is to initially just build that alliance, right? And that can be difficult because you're not allying yourself with either individual exactly. You're actually allying yourself to both of them, but also not entirely either one of them, because you're trying to build trust and you're trying not to alienate one over the other. So if I'm too, you know, um, one-sided, if I'm too allied with the person on my left, then I risk kind of alienating the person on my right. And if I'm too allied with the person on my right, then I risk alienating the person on my left, whichever partner it is. And so I'm trying to build trust, and I'm trying not to alienate anyone. And I'm also trying to keep myself out of it, right? I'm trying to keep my energy level or lack thereof out of it. I'm trying to keep my sleep or lack thereof out of it. I'm trying to keep my history, my family, my own relationship, my thoughts and feelings and opinions. I'm trying to keep all of those things out of it, because counseling and couples counseling is not about sharing your opinion. It's not about do things the way that my wife and I did it, and then you'll find success. Although sometimes I'll use examples that are really just aimed at helping people to understand their story better. So you're balancing these two people. You're keeping yourself out of it, and you're balancing the two perspectives, right? Each one has a valid perspective, and invalidating either one alienates them and then shuts down the work. So you're balancing the two of them. You're encouraging the two of them. You're allying yourself with both of them, but not fully. You're building trust, and then you're fighting the current, which is basically just a way of saying everybody that brings themselves in that is in a really difficult place, on average, that actually tends to be quite a bit later on than maybe you'd think. On average, they say that a couple has lived with a problem for 6 years before they've come in to talk about it. And so that's what I call fighting the current. Fighting the current can also mean that some people come in and bring some bitterness or resentment or hurt, woundedness. A lot of people come in crisis, having just found out about an affair, or my husband's looking at porn, or, something awful happened in their relationship or in their life or in their system. And so you're fighting the current of their lives, their stresses, their struggles, and their wounds. And so in that way, it can be difficult. The window is small. It's a small window where marriage counseling comes in and is effective, and it helps. Some things that make you kind of fall outside that window are abuse, any active abuse, whether it be verbal, emotional, physical, spiritual, etc. Abuse is like putting one of those people, either the person on the left or the person on the right, above the other. And there's an abuser and a victim, and the system is kind of broken, because a true marriage system is a balance, and it is a conversation, it's a dialogue, it's of service and submission, like we talked about a few weeks ago. And so abuse kind of hijacks the system and causes it not to be able to grow, when even the most skilled or most beneficial, techniques or education could be applied to it. Abuse undermines a system's ability to learn and grow and change. And basically you're working under the guise of a healthy system, and you are trying to apply principles that make the system work, when in fact you're not actually working on the system that you think that you're working on when there's abuse present. Because abuse kind of supersedes and undermines what makes a marriage healthy from actually occurring. Chemical dependency is a similar thing. There's a victim and a codependent. There's a perpetrator of the dependency, and so it's not the same as abuse, but it does kind of undermine one's ability to see their spouse and work on their relationship. Mental health can definitely come in and kind of kick you outside the window of effectiveness. When somebody's like super hyper anxious or super hyper depressed, that individual needs the primary care. And so the counselor in those cases, when they recognize or realize that, should be shifting from couples focus to individual focus. And sometimes that can actually occur when the other party is present. But at times you actually need to pivot to seeing the individual who is kind of primarily in need of the individual support, and doing that for a season, and then circling back around to the couple's work. Blame is probably one of the most insidious and awful killers of any kind of marital progress or focus to improve the system. Unfortunately, blame oftentimes lead to resentment and criticism and stonewalling and defensiveness and contempt, which are all the horsemen that kind of show the coming of the end of the relationship. Blame is bitter, and it is and it is, I was going to go back through the list, but blame really undermines the counseling's ability to support the stuff in between, because what it does, again, it sets one person in the relationship above the other, so it gets it all out of balance, and relationships out of balance exist in a system where one party is always under a lot of weight or pressure, and unfortunately that blame, unless it's dealt with primarily first, unless it's dealt with first, the blame will actually undermine the system's ability to grow. Obviously, cheating is another thing that like will kick you out the window. For like couples work, you can still work on your relationship to heal from the cheating, but ultimately you can't necessarily really work on the relationship until the healing from the cheating has occurred and a commitment to the relationship has been reestablished. And then you can kind of, get those systems back into place. But if you move too soon or too quickly, then you kind of set the system up for not being able to respond appropriately. So when you're in the window, there's some humility going on. There's a willingness from both parties to come in and talk things through. There's a commitment to each other, and there's a positive kind of sense of self that you're bringing in to the session. And then the work can happen, right? If you just imagine, right, like a humble, willing, committed person, there's so much room for growth and hope. And when you have a humble, willing, committed participant, and it's rare to find somebody in that window. It's rare to say, hey, I know that I'm screwing it up. I know that they've got their own stuff, but I'm willing and committed to work on my part and start to see them differently, even if I've grown, even if I'm wounded, even if I feel a little bitter towards some things, I'm willing to come in, and I want it to be better, and I want it to work, and I see myself as a person of value, and I see my partner as a person of value, and I'm ready to put in the work, because it's a lot of work. Couples work is a ton of work, and it's fun work. It can be really actually quite enjoyable, and I think that some of my couples actually really enjoy doing the work that I ask them to do, to spend time chatting day to day, to update each other on the stress of the day, to date, to get away for a weekend, to touch each other, to be affectionate, to connect in that way, to pay each other compliments and appreciations, day to day, whenever they see something, to say something to one another. It's beautiful work, right? Like the systems work that makes marriage thrive and feel so intimate and close is all about fun and enjoying your partner. And so when people can come in with a humble heart and engage the work and enjoy the work and enjoy each other doing the work, it really unlocks that growth and intimacy. And once they've got their systems set up, they can thrive and they can feel intimate for a very, very, very long time. So you restore their connection first and foremost. You educate them on what maintains that connection and what kind of system requirements marriage has. And then you help them set up a new system. And once they've got their system, you just troubleshoot them from there on, and they can thrive and move on with their lives and not come back into my office unless they really need something, which obviously I'm kind of some tongue in cheek there, but I love it when people come back and we're able to say, hey, we're winning here, here, and here, but we had this argument and we just needed you to help us kind of work through that. And so you equip them to know how to work through something like that. And then you launch them back and send them off and wish them on their merry way to a happy and fulfilled and hope-filled relationship. And it's a blast. So if you are in need of some couples counseling, you should come see me. And I work at Counseling Care, and I am licensed in the state of Minnesota, and it's so much fun. Like, we really do. I have a blast. I tell my couples all the time that I'm enjoying myself in session. And even when it blows up in my face, it's not that unenjoyable. Like, I get that that's part of the process sometimes. And trust me, things have blown up. That's for sure. That tends to come with the territory as well, which kind of, that also creates some difficulty in just managing some of those dynamics. So if you're interested in coming into some counseling and you're humble and willing and you want to be connected, but you're experiencing a problem, feel free to come in and we can work through it. And I can help you to kind of determine if you're in the window or out of the window. That's part of the screening process. And the window is really important. If you're feeling bitter and resentful, or if you're struggling in your mental health in any way, shape, or form, individual counseling would be a better place to start than relational counseling. Because those things are kicking you out of the window, it doesn't mean that your marriage doesn't need work, and it doesn't mean that you can't work on your marriage. What it means is that there's just an order of operations. Seek individual counseling first, get that squared away, get that helped, then ask your counselor if they would be willing to see you as a couple. If you've graduated from individual counseling, if you want to continue on individual counseling and do them co-occurring at the same time, then maybe have them give you a referral to a rock-solid marriage counselor so that you can receive both the individual support while you're also doing the couple's work. Although at times those things can be contradictory because the client is different in one respect than the other. When I'm seeing an individual, it's all about that individual. And so when I'm coaching them, when I'm talking with them, when I'm reflecting to them, oftentimes it is not for the betterment of the stuff in between because my client is the individual coming in. So individual counseling can actually kind of fly because it's unbalanced. Individual counseling is unbalanced toward that individual. It doesn't always serve the stuff in between. And that can be problematic, but that's just kind of the nature of the individual versus the couple. And just like all things, counseling is not a perfect profession, nor is it a free lunch. It's a lot of work. And if you want to put in the work, things can get better, which is a beautiful thing. And so that is all I have to say today. And this is the end.
All I want, and I got